The plea across the stars. The crimson sun of Zithra IV cast a haunting glow over the capital city as High Arbiter Kale sat motionless in the great hall of the assembly. The air was thick with tension, the kind that settled when a civilization teetered on the edge of obliteration. The Zorethians, a proud race known for their artistry and diplomacy, had found themselves trapped in a dire predicament. The Arkan Dominion, a ruthless empire spanning hundreds of star systems, had declared war on them. Their plea for mercy had been met with silence. The Dominion didn't bargain. They conquered. Kel's scaled hands trembled as he activated the Universal Broadcast System, a device long used to share Zorethian culture across the galaxy. But today, it served a different purpose. His voice was resolute, yet tinged with desperation as he spoke. "This is High Arbiter Kel of Zithra IV. Our people face annihilation at the hands of the Arkan Dominion. We seek aid from any who will answer. We offer the richness of our knowledge, our art, and our undying gratitude to any who can help us withstand this horror." The message shot through quantum channels, racing across the galaxy like a beam of light, piercing a vast void. The Zorethians waited in silence, watching the skies for an answer. Far away, aboard the Earth vessel Indomitable, Captain Alina Marlowe was overseeing the final stages of their exploration mission. Humanity had evolved rapidly over the past century, venturing far beyond their solar system to explore and establish themselves as a formidable presence in the galaxy. Yet they remained cautious, aware of their still tenuous position in an uncaring cosmos. "Captain, we're picking up a distress signal," Lieutenant Harris announced, his tone urgent. "Details?" Marlowe asked, her sharp gaze locking onto the main console. "It's from the Zorethians. They're transmitting technical schematics, cultural data, and coordinates." Harris hesitated. "They're offering everything." Marlowe leaned forward, studying the screen. The Zorethians were a peaceful species, admired but often underestimated for their lack of military prowess. Yet the situation they described was dire. "Patch me through to the bridge," Marlowe commanded, standing tall as the ship's holographic systems activated. "This is Captain Marlowe. The Zorethians are calling for help. We have an opportunity to act, not just as explorers, but as protectors. Humanity has faced its share of trials, and we've risen above them. Now it's our turn to do for others what we once wished someone would do for us." Her words carried a spark of resolve, igniting a shared determination among her crew. "Commander Lewis," she continued, turning to her second-in-command, "prepare the fleet for combat readiness. If we engage the Dominion, we'll need every advantage we can muster." Lieutenant Harris, plot a course to the Zorethian coordinates. Maximum speed. As the Indomitable surged forward, Marlowe stared out at the swirling tapestry of stars. Humanity had taken great strides in their technological advancements, including adaptive shielding, long-range weapons, and quantum drives that could bend the fabric of space-time itself. But it wasn't just their tools that made them strong. It was their unyielding spirit. The journey to Zithra IV was tense, filled with preparations and silent anticipation. The crew reviewed the Zorethian data, marveling at their advancements in cultural preservation and planetary restoration. These people were not warriors, but their contributions to the galaxy were immeasurable. "We're approaching the system, Captain," Harris reported after hours of travel. "On screen," Marlowe ordered. The view that filled the bridge was one of devastation. Massive Dominion warships orbited Zithra IV, their shadowy hulls eclipsing the planet's beauty. Entire cities lay in ruins, their vibrant structures crumbled beneath relentless bombardment. Marlowe clenched her fists. "They're not just attacking, they're erasing them." "We're being hailed," Lewis said, his voice steady. "Open a channel." A Dominion commander appeared on the screen, his reptilian features twisted into a smug grin. "This territory belongs to the Arkan Dominion. Your presence here is a violation of interstellar law. Leave now or be destroyed." Marlowe's eyes burned with defiance. We're here to protect the Zorathians. If you want their world, you'll have to go through us." The Dominion commander sneered. So be it. The transmission cut, and the Dominion fleet began to maneuver into attack formations. Marlowe turned to her crew. "Battle stations. Engage defensive shields and charge weapons. Let's show them what humanity is capable of." The Indomitable surged forward, its engines roaring as Earth's finest vessel faced down an empire. Marlowe's voice rang through the ship, steady and unshakable. "For Earth. For the Zorathians. For the future." The first shots were fired, marking the beginning of a battle that would test the limits of human ingenuity and courage. But in the heart of every crew member burned the conviction that they were fighting not just for survival, but for the ideals that defined them: hope, resilience, and the unwavering belief that even in the darkest times, light could prevail. A spark in the void. The first volley of plasma fire from the Dominion fleet lit up the void, streaking toward the Indomitable with an almost poetic lethality. Captain Elena Marlowe gripped the edges of her command console, her mind racing through possibilities as her voice rang steady over the chaos. "Activate quantum shields. Divert auxiliary power to the forward deflectors," she ordered. The Indomitable shuddered as the Dominion's plasma bursts splashed against its shimmering shields. Sparks danced along the bulkheads, but the shields held firm. "Status report," Marlowe demanded. "Shields at 87% and holding," Commander Lewis replied. "The Dominion's energy weapons are powerful, but our adaptive shielding is compensating." Marlowe nodded. "Good. Let's show them we're not a target. They're outmatched." The Indomitable's weapon systems roared to life. Kinetic rounds lanced out, striking the hulls of Dominion frigates. Explosions rippled through the blackness as Earth's advanced weaponry proved its mettle. Yet for every ship that fell, two more seemed to take its place. An uneasy alliance. "Captain, incoming transmission from Zithra 4. Lieutenant Harris called out. "Put it through," Marlowe replied, her gaze still locked on the unfolding battle. The hologram of High Arbiter Kale flickered into view. His pale blue scales shimmered faintly, a stark contrast to the panic in his eyes. "Earth vessel. This is Kale of Zithra 4. Your intervention is unexpected, but we are grateful beyond measure." "We're here to help," Marlowe said firmly. "But we need information. Are there planetary defenses we can reactivate? Anything we can use to tip the balance?" Kale hesitated. We were never prepared for war. Our people have dedicated themselves to the arts, to the sciences. Violence, it is not our way." Marlowe frowned. "If we're going to hold this line, we need more than gratitude. Any advantage you have, artifacts, technology, planetary systems, could make the difference." Kale's hologram flickered as he glanced nervously off-screen. "There is something. An old system buried beneath our capital. It's ancient, built by our ancestors long before we embraced peace. We call it the Sentinel Core." "What does it do?" Marlowe asked, her tone sharp. Kale looked uncomfortable. "It's a weapon. But it hasn't been used in centuries. Activating it could destroy everything we stand for." Marlowe's jaw tightened. "Kale, if we don't use it, there may not be a Zithra 4 left to stand for anything. Can you activate it remotely?" "No," Kale admitted. "It must be done manually. Someone would need to enter the core and reinitialize its systems." Marlowe took a deep breath, weighing the risks. "Send me the coordinates. We'll send a ground team." A desperate gamble. Moments later, a shuttle broke away from the Indomitable, streaking toward the surface of Zithra 4. Inside, Lieutenant Commander Jackson Hayes and his squad prepared for what felt like a suicide mission. The air in the cabin was heavy with unspoken fears, but Hayes's voice cut through the tension. "Listen up. We've got one job: get to the Sentinel Core, reactivate it, and hold out until extraction. I don't care what's out there. Dominion troops, wildlife, the Dan apocalypse. We complete the mission." The shuttle shook violently as it entered the atmosphere. Zithra 4's once vivid skies were now choked with smoke and ash. The ruins of crystalline spires dotted the landscape, their beauty shattered by the Dominion's relentless bombardment. "Brace for landing," the pilot yelled. The shuttle slammed into the ground, skidding to a halt amid a field of rubble. Hayes was the first out, his plasma rifle at the ready. His team followed, scanning the horizon for threats. "Coordinates locked," Hayes said, checking his wrist-mounted display. "The entrance to the core is 2 clicks north. Move out." The Sentinel awakens. As they advanced, the squad encountered scattered Dominion patrols. The Zorethians' lack of resistance had made the Dominion complacent, and Hayes' team used that to their advantage, dispatching enemies with precision and speed. Yet with each step closer to the core, the air seemed to grow heavier, charged with an almost supernatural energy. "Sir, we've reached the entrance," one of the soldiers reported. Before them stood a massive archway, its surface etched with glowing runes that pulsed faintly. The structure seemed to hum with a life of its own, as if aware of their presence. "This is it," Hayes said. "Cover me while I get the system online." Inside, the core chamber was a marvel of ancient engineering. Crystalline conduits snaked across the walls, converging on a central console that glowed with dormant power. Hayes approached cautiously, his every step echoing in the cavernous space. "Commander, you're on the clock." Marlowe's voice crackled over his comm. "The Dominion is intensifying their assault. We need that core now." Hayes nodded, his fingers flying over the console. The system roared to life, and the chamber was bathed in an otherworldly light. Outside, the ground trembled as the ancient weapon awakened. "Captain, it's online," Hayes reported. On the Indomitable, Marlowe watched as the Sentinel core unleashed its fury. Beams of energy shot from Zithra 4's surface, slicing through the Dominion fleet with devastating precision. One by one, the enemy ships disintegrated, their remains scattering like ashes on the wind. A fragile victory. Back on the Indomitable, cheers erupted as the Dominion fleet began to retreat, but Marlowe's expression remained grim. "This isn't over," she said quietly. "They'll be back. And next time, they'll come with more." Cal's hologram appeared once more, his expression a mix of relief and sorrow. "You have saved us, Captain Marlowe. But at what cost? The Sentinel core, it is a weapon of destruction. Its activation marks the end of an era for our people." Marlowe met his gaze. Sometimes survival means making hard choices, but the Zorethians still have a future, and that's worth fighting for. As the Indomitable prepared to depart, Marlowe couldn't shake the feeling that this victory was just the beginning of a larger battle. The galaxy had taken notice of humanity's resolve, and soon they would have to prove once again that their courage knew no bounds. Shadows of retaliation. The vastness of space stretched endlessly before the Indomitable, yet Captain Alina Marlowe felt its weight pressing on her shoulders. The Dominion's retreat was a victory, but it carried an ominous undertone. They would return, angrier and stronger. The Zorethians had been spared for now, but the question remained: for how long? The warning in the void. "Captain, we're picking up an anomaly," Lieutenant Harris announced, his fingers dancing over the console. "It's some kind of signal." Marlowe raised an eyebrow. "Another distress call?" "No," Harris said, his face pale. "It's Dominion. They're broadcasting a message on all frequencies." "On screen," Marlowe ordered. The visage of a Dominion warlord filled the bridge. His obsidian armor shimmered under faint light, and his piercing, serpentine eyes held an air of unshakable menace. His voice carried a chilling calm. "Humans of Earth, I am Supreme Commander Varric of the Arkan Dominion. Your interference on Zithra 4 has not gone unnoticed. You have defied us, disrupted our order. Know this, you have made an enemy of the Dominion. Prepare yourselves. We are coming." The transmission ended abruptly, leaving a heavy silence in its wake. Marlowe turned to her crew, her expression unreadable. "They've declared war," she said softly. Commander Lewis stepped forward. Captain, what's our next move? Earth Command will need to be notified immediately. They'll be notified, Marlowe said firmly. But we won't wait for orders. The Dominion thinks they can intimidate us. Let's show them they're wrong. Harris, locate the nearest Zorathian colony. If the Dominion wants war, we'll be ready. Preparing for battle. The crew worked tirelessly as the Indomitable moved to intercept Dominion forces before they could target other vulnerable worlds. Engineers reinforced the ship's defenses, scientists analyzed the Sentinel Core's technology, and soldiers prepared for ground combat scenarios. The sense of unity aboard the ship was palpable. In the strategy room, Marlowe and her senior officers gathered around a holographic display of the sector. Red markers denoted Dominion-controlled space, their influence spreading like a stain across the galaxy. Blue markers indicated Allied and neutral systems, now under threat. The Dominion operates on fear, Marlowe began, her voice steady. They don't conquer, they subjugate. If we can show the galaxy that resistance is possible, we might inspire others to stand with us. But we're just one ship, Lewis pointed out. A prototype at that. One ship, Marlowe agreed, with capabilities the Dominion hasn't seen before. And we're not alone. The Zorathians may not be warriors, but their technology and ingenuity are unmatched. If we can convince them to adapt their knowledge to defense, they could become a formidable ally, an unexpected ally. As the Indomitable approached a nearby Zorathian colony, they encountered a surprising sight, a cluster of ships unlike any they had seen before. Sleek, angular, and adorned with glowing symbols, these vessels exuded both elegance and menace. Unknown vessels approaching, Captain, Harris reported. They're not Dominion, but they're heavily armed. Open a channel, Marlowe ordered. A moment later, the image of a tall, silver-skinned being appeared on the screen. Its eyes glowed faintly, and its voice resonated with an almost musical cadence. I am Envoy Drull of the Silith Coalition. We received the Zorathian broadcast and observe your intervention against the Dominion. Your actions are intriguing. Marlowe's instincts sharpened. The Silith Coalition was a reclusive and technologically advanced civilization, known for their refusal to engage in interstellar conflicts. Their presence here was both unexpected and potentially game-changing. We stand against the Dominion's tyranny, Marlowe said. If you're here to help, we welcome your assistance. Drull tilted his head. The Dominion's expansion concerns us. Their aggression threatens the balance of this galaxy. However, we do not fight wars. We offer alternatives. What kind of alternatives? Marlowe asked. The hologram shifted to display a crystalline device pulsating with light. This is a phase disruptor. It destabilizes Dominion technology, rendering their ships and weapons inoperable. We can provide you with several units, on one condition. Name it, Marlowe said. You must lead, Drull replied. The Silith do not engage directly, but your ship, your crew, can serve as the vanguard of resistance. Marlowe considered the offer. The phase disruptors could be a turning point, but the weight of leadership in a galaxy-wide resistance was enormous. Still, she knew there was only one answer. We accept, she said. The turning point. The Indomitable, now equipped with Silith phase disruptors, returned to the Zorathian colony. Kale and his advisors greeted them with a mix of relief and apprehension. Captain Marlowe, you've returned, Kale said. What news? We have allies, Marlowe said, her voice resolute, and we have new tools to fight back. But we need your help, Kale. The Zorathians must adapt. Your knowledge and ingenuity could turn the tide of this war. Kale hesitated, his gaze falling to the ground. We are not warriors. We create, we heal. To fight, it goes against everything we are. And if you don't fight, Marlowe said, her tone sharp but not unkind, everything you are will be lost. The Dominion doesn't care about your principles. They care about power. But you have the power to change that. Help us, Kale. Help your people survive. Cale looked around at his advisors, then back at Marlowe. What do you need us to do? Build, Marlowe said. Your Sentinel technology is extraordinary. If you can adapt it into defensive systems, we can protect not just your worlds, but others across the galaxy. Cal's eyes hardened with determination. Then we will build. Rising tensions. As the Zorathians began their work, the Dominion launched another attack, this time on a neighboring system. The Indomitable, with its new phase disruptors, responded swiftly, disabling Dominion ships and forcing their retreat. The galaxy was beginning to notice. Smaller civilizations, long cowed by the Dominion, began reaching out, offering resources and support. The seeds of a rebellion were taking root, but Marlowe knew the hardest battles were yet to come. The Dominion would not stop. They would escalate, and humanity, alongside their new allies, would have to rise to meet them. The Dominion strikes back. The Indomitable hovered in the shadow of Zorathia's largest moon, its darkened hull blending seamlessly with the void. For Captain Alina Marlowe, the calm was an illusion, a fragile moment before the inevitable storm. The Dominion's forces were regrouping, and their retaliation was coming. The warning from within. Captain, we've intercepted a Dominion transmission, Lieutenant Harris reported. His voice was tinged with unease. It's encrypted, but I'm running it through the Silith decryption system. Marlowe nodded. Let's hear it. The bridge fell silent as the message played. It was fragmented, but the intent was clear. The Dominion wasn't merely planning a counterattack. They were deploying a weapon of unimaginable scale, a planet killer. Coordinates point to the Zorathian homeworld, Harris said grimly. They're bringing their flagship, Dreadspire, into the system. Commander Lewis leaned forward, his expression serious. The Dreadspire is a legend, Captain. A mobile fortress with enough firepower to obliterate entire fleets. If it's real, we're outgunned. Marlowe's jaw tightened. Then we level the playing field. Contact Cale. We need the Sentinel Corps fully operational. The Zorathians, leap of faith. In the heart of the Zorathian capital, High Arbiter Cale stood before his council, the weight of his species' survival pressing down on him. For centuries, the Zorathians had shunned war, devoting themselves to the pursuit of beauty and knowledge. Now, their very existence depended on resurrecting a weapon from a past they had chosen to forget. We cannot wield this power lightly, Cale said, his voice steady despite the turmoil in his heart. But if we do nothing, the Dominion will destroy us. The council murmured their reluctant agreement, and Cale turned to Marlowe's holographic projection. The Sentinel Corps is ready. Its energy fields have been expanded to protect our fleet. But Captain, this is uncharted territory. If it fails, it won't, Marlowe interrupted. Her voice carried the conviction of someone who had faced impossible odds before. Trust your people, Cale. Trust yourself. Cale nodded, his resolve hardening. May the stars guide us. The approach of the Dreadspire. Hours later, the Dreadspire emerged from hyperspace. The colossal ship was a marvel of engineering, its hull bristling with weaponry. It dwarfed the Dominion fleet that accompanied it, casting an ominous shadow over Zorathia. Aboard the Indomitable, the crew braced themselves. Scans confirm it, Captain, Harris said. The Dreadspire's power core is massive, likely fusion-based. If we can destabilize it, we might be able to destroy the ship. That's a big if, Lewis muttered. It's our only shot, Marlowe said. Target the Dreadspire. All weapons on standby. The Indomitable surged forward, its engines roaring as it engaged the Dominion fleet. Phase disruptors hummed to life, their crystalline beams slicing through enemy ships. The smaller Dominion vessels fell quickly, but the Dreadspire remained unscathed, its shields absorbing everything the Earth ship could throw at it. They're firing, Harris shouted. A beam of energy erupted from the Dreadspire, streaking toward the Indomitable. The ship veered hard, narrowly avoiding destruction. Shields at 60%. Lewis reported. "We can't keep taking hits like that," Marlowe said. "Get me a targeting solution for their core." The ground strike. As the space battle raged, a smaller Zorathian strike team, led by Hayes and his Earth counterparts, descended to the planet. Their mission: infiltrate a Dominion command outpost and disable the fleet's communication relay. The outpost was heavily fortified, its perimeter guarded by Dominion soldiers equipped with advanced exoskeletons. Hayes and his team moved with precision, using the rocky terrain for cover. "We've got 5 hostiles at the north entrance," Hayes whispered. "Take them out silently." The team executed flawlessly, neutralizing the guards and breaching the outpost. Inside, the atmosphere was tense, the halls illuminated by an eerie red glow. "Plant the charges," Hayes ordered. "We've got 5 minutes." As they worked, the team encountered fierce resistance. Blaster fire echoed through the corridors, but the Earth-Zorathian alliance proved a formidable force. Despite their losses, they succeeded in disabling the relay. "Mission accomplished," Hayes said, his voice filled with determination. "Get us out of here." The final gambit. With the Dominion fleet's coordination disrupted, the Indomitable seized the advantage. Marlowe ordered a full assault on the Dreadspire, focusing all firepower on its core. "Direct hit," Harris exclaimed as a missile breached the Dreadspire's shields, striking its power core. The ship began to destabilize, its hull cracking as energy cascaded uncontrollably. But even in its death throes, the Dreadspire was dangerous. "They're charging their main weapon," Lewis shouted. Marlowe's mind raced. Evasive maneuvers. Divert all power to the shields. The Dreadspire's final blast ripped through the void, but the Indomitable held firm, its shields absorbing the brunt of the attack. Moments later, the Dominion flagship erupted in a brilliant explosion, scattering debris across the system. A new dawn. The battle was over, but the cost was high. The Zorathian capital bore scars from the conflict, and the Indomitable limped in orbit, its hull battered but intact. Cale addressed his people from the Grand Hall, his voice carrying both sorrow and hope. "Today, we faced annihilation and emerged stronger. Thanks to the bravery of our allies and the resilience of our own, we have survived. Let this be a new chapter for Zorathia, one where we build not just for peace, but for the strength to protect it." Aboard the Indomitable, Marlowe stood before her crew, pride and exhaustion evident in her posture. "We've done the impossible," she said, "but this is just the beginning. The Dominion won't stop here. We've shown them what humanity is capable of. Now we prepare for what's next." The crew erupted into cheers, their spirits unbroken despite the trials they had endured. And as the Indomitable sailed into the stars, a beacon of hope in a galaxy fraught with danger, Marlowe knew they had ignited something far greater than a battle. They had sparked a revolution. Seeds of the resistance. The victory over the Dreadspire was a defining moment, but Captain Alina Marlowe knew it was only a temporary reprieve. The Dominion would regroup, their vast empire more than capable of replenishing their losses. As the Indomitable sailed toward a hidden rendezvous point, Marlowe turned her attention to the next phase: uniting the galaxy against a common enemy. A galactic summit. The Indomitable docked at Sentinel Haven, a hidden Zorathian installation nestled within a dense nebula. The haven was a marvel of engineering, a station designed to serve as a neutral ground for diplomacy and strategy. Delegates from various star systems began to arrive, each bearing scars of Dominion oppression. High Arbiter Cale and Captain Marlowe stood at the head of the assembly. The atmosphere was tense, a mix of hope and skepticism. Marlowe addressed the crowd, her voice steady and commanding. "We've seen what the Dominion is capable of, but we've also shown that they can be defeated. This is not just humanity's fight. This is a fight for all who believe in freedom, in survival, in a galaxy where no one lives in fear." A towering feline-like delegate from the Creole Coalition stepped forward, her amber eyes narrowing. "And what makes you think we can trust each other?" Many of us have been betrayed before, by allies who chose survival over honor. Marlowe met her gaze without flinching. Trust isn't given. It's earned, and today, we start earning it. Together, we can create something the Dominion fears: unity. The architect of rebellion. Among the crowd was a figure cloaked in shadow, a lanky humanoid with crystalline skin that shimmered faintly in the station's dim light. When they finally spoke, the room fell silent. "I am Arion of the Silvery Confederation," the figure said, their voice melodic yet sharp. "For centuries, my people have resisted the Dominion in the shadows, striking where they are weakest. But shadows alone cannot win a war. Captain Marlowe, if you seek to lead this resistance, you will need more than words." Marlowe nodded. "And what would you propose, Arion?" "A network," Arion replied. "A web of intelligence, supply chains, and covert operations. I can provide the tools, but you will need to coordinate the galaxy's resources. This is not just a war of ships and soldiers. It's a war of strategy." Kale stepped forward. "The Zorathians will provide the technology. Our Sentinel cores can shield key systems and disrupt Dominion operations. And humanity," Marlowe added, "will be the spearhead. We've already shown we're willing to fight." The Saboteur's Gambit. As the summit continued, alarms blared through the station. Marlowe's communicator crackled to life. "Captain, we have an intruder on board. Dominion operatives have breached the haven. Lock down the station," Marlowe commanded. "Kale, stay with the delegates. We can't let this summit fall apart." Marlowe led a small team through the corridors of Sentinel Haven, her pulse rifle at the ready. The station's curved walls and glowing pathways provided little cover, but Marlowe's instincts were sharp. The team encountered a group of Dominion operatives planting explosives near the station's main power core. The operatives wore sleek, dark armor that absorbed light, making them nearly invisible in the dim environment. "Take them out," Marlowe ordered. The firefight was brutal but swift. Marlowe's team disabled the explosives, but not before capturing a single operative. The prisoner, a young human woman, glared defiantly at Marlowe. "You fight for the Dominion?" Marlowe asked, her voice edged with disbelief. "Why?" The woman smirked. "The Dominion offers order, stability, something your rebellion will never achieve." Marlowe's eyes hardened. "You're wrong. The galaxy doesn't need fear to thrive. It needs hope." The first mission. With the summit back on track, the newly formed Galactic Resistance began planning its first coordinated strike. Intelligence from Arion revealed a critical Dominion shipyard hidden in the Zexus Nebula. The shipyard produced the Dominion's warships, including a new generation of destroyers equipped with experimental weaponry. "This shipyard is the lifeblood of their fleet," Arion explained. "Destroy it, and we cripple their ability to wage war." Marlowe volunteered the Indomitable for the mission. She knew the risks, but she also knew the importance of striking a decisive blow. "We'll lead the attack," she said, "but we'll need support." The Kuriel Coalition offered their elite fighter squadrons, while the Silvery provided cloaked reconnaissance drones to map the shipyard's defenses. The Zorathians contributed experimental shielding technology, ensuring the fleet could withstand Dominion countermeasures. The assault on Zexus. The Resistance fleet emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the Zexus Nebula. The shipyard loomed ahead, its massive structure bristling with defensive turrets and patrolled by Dominion warships. "Cloaked drones are in position," Arion's voice crackled over the comms. "Their defenses are concentrated around the outer rings. The central core is vulnerable, but you'll need to get past the outer perimeter first." "Understood," Marlowe replied. "All ships, advance on my mark." The Resistance fleet surged forward, their formation tight and disciplined. Fighters from the Kuriel Coalition darted ahead, engaging Dominion interceptors in a chaotic dance of fire and explosions. The Indomitable led the charge, its phase disruptors cutting through enemy frigates like a scalpel. As the fleet pushed deeper into the shipyard's defenses, the Dominion's response grew more desperate. Massive destroyers emerged from hidden docks, their weapons raining fire on the resistance ships. Shields down to 40%. Lewis reported. Divert auxiliary power to the shields. Marlowe ordered. We're not done yet. With the resistance fleet providing cover, the Indomitable reached the central core. Marlowe gave the order. Target their fusion reactor. Fire everything we've got. Missiles and energy beams slammed into the reactor, triggering a chain reaction. The shipyard erupted in a blinding explosion, the shockwave rippling through the nebula. A fragile hope. As the resistance fleet regrouped, cheers erupted across the comm channels. The shipyard was gone, and the Dominion's war machine had taken a devastating blow. Back on Sentinel Haven, the delegates reconvened. For the first time, there was a sense of unity, a fragile hope that the galaxy might yet overcome the Dominion's tyranny. Marlowe stood before the assembly, her voice calm but resolute. This is just the beginning. We've shown the Dominion that we're not afraid. Now, we build, we fight, and we win. The room erupted in applause, and for the first time in years, the galaxy felt the faint flicker of freedom. The Dominion's counterstroke. The embers of victory from the Zexus Nebula still burned bright, but Captain Elena Marlowe knew they had only scratched the surface of the Dominion's might. The Resistance had struck their first major blow, and the galaxy watched with hope and trepidation. But the Dominion was far from defeated, and Marlowe suspected their next move would be swift and merciless. An ominous signal. As the Indomitable sailed toward a new rendezvous point, Lieutenant Harris's console flared to life. Captain, we're receiving a high-priority distress signal. It's coming from a system just outside Dominion-controlled space, he said, his voice tense. Marlowe leaned forward. What's the message? Harris frowned. It's fragmented, but it's Zorathian. They're under attack by Dominion forces. Cal's hologram appeared on the bridge, his expression one of grim determination. Captain Marlowe, the message is from Arios, our outermost colony. It's a vital resource hub. If it falls, the Dominion will gain a foothold into Allied space. Marlowe didn't hesitate. Set course for Arios. Maximum speed. A trap unveiled. The Indomitable emerged from hyperspace to a scene of chaos. Arios was a shimmering world of emerald oceans and crystalline cities, now marred by plumes of smoke and flashes of fire. Dominion warships hovered in low orbit, bombarding the surface with unrelenting precision. Deploy fighters and engage their fleet, Marlowe ordered. We need to draw their fire away from the planet. As the Resistance fleet surged into battle, the Indomitable targeted a Dominion battleship, its phase disruptors tearing through the vessel's shields. But something felt off. Captain, the Dominion forces, they're not fighting at full capacity, Commander Lewis said, his brow furrowed. Marlowe's eyes narrowed. Harris, scan the system. I want to know what they're hiding. Harris's console beeped ominously. Captain, I'm detecting a massive energy signature behind the moon. It's a Dominion supercarrier. The screen displayed the massive vessel, its silhouette dwarfing even the Dreadspire. A wave of smaller Dominion ships poured from its hangars, swarming toward the Resistance fleet. It's a trap, Marlowe muttered. They baited us here to wipe us out. Turning the tide. Marlowe's mind raced as the Dominion supercarrier loomed closer. Its sheer size and firepower threatened to obliterate the Resistance forces. But as she studied the battlefield, an idea began to form. Harris, give me a detailed scan of that supercarrier, she said. I need to know its weak points. Harris worked quickly, his fingers flying over the console. There's a structural vulnerability near its reactor core, but it's heavily shielded. Marlowe turned to Cal's hologram. Cal, can your Sentinel core disrupt their shielding? Cal hesitated. It's possible, but it would require rerouting energy from our planetary defenses. If we fail, we won't, Marlowe said firmly. We need that shield down. Cal nodded, his resolve hardening. "I will make the preparations." The infiltration. While the resistance fleet fought to hold the line, a strike team led by Lieutenant Commander Hayes launched toward the supercarrier. Their mission: infiltrate the vessel and disable its reactor core. The Dominion's defenses were fierce, but the strike team moved with precision, utilizing stealth and strategy to navigate the labyrinthine corridors of the supercarrier. Inside, the halls were dimly lit, the walls pulsing with an eerie blue glow from the ship's power systems. "Keep moving," Hayes urged his team. "The reactor's just ahead." As they approached the core, they encountered a squad of Dominion soldiers. A fierce firefight erupted, plasma bolts ricocheting off the metallic walls. Despite the odds, the strike team pushed forward, finally reaching the reactor chamber. "Plant the charges," Hayes ordered. The team worked quickly, securing explosive devices around the reactor. But before they could activate them, a Dominion commander stepped into the chamber, flanked by heavily armed guards. "You've come far, humans," the commander said, his voice dripping with disdain. "But this ends here." Hayes raised his rifle. "Not today." A shattering victory. Back on the Indomitable, Kel's Sentinel Core unleashed a powerful burst of energy, disrupting the supercarrier's shields. Marlowe seized the opportunity. "All ships, focus fire on the supercarrier's exposed sections," she commanded. The Resistance fleet unleashed a barrage of firepower, and inside the supercarrier, Hayes' team detonated the charges. The combined assault tore through the vessel, triggering a catastrophic chain reaction. The supercarrier erupted in a massive explosion, its debris scattering across the system. Cheers erupted across the Resistance comm channels, but Marlowe's face remained serious. "Harris, status report on Arios." "Dominion forces are retreating," Harris said. "Arios is secure, for now." The cost of freedom. As the Resistance fleet regrouped, Marlowe addressed her crew. "We've won another battle, but this war is far from over. The Dominion will come at us harder, stronger. But today, we've shown them that the galaxy won't bow to their tyranny." Kale appeared on the bridge, his expression a mix of relief and sorrow. "Arios is safe, thanks to you. But this conflict has changed us, Captain. The Zorethians are no longer a people of peace." Marlowe placed a hand on his shoulder. "You're a people of survival, Kale, and together, we'll make sure the Dominion never forgets that." As the Indomitable prepared for its next mission, Marlowe gazed out at the stars. The galaxy was rallying, but the path ahead was steep. Yet in the face of overwhelming odds, she felt the unshakable resolve of her crew, and the hope of a galaxy determined to fight for its freedom.